What happens when a movement runs out of ideas but still needs a dopamine hit? You get the No Kings rallies, marketed as resistance, delivered as group therapy. The slogan says no king. The behavior says, please rule us harder. Let's talk about the projection, the numbers games, and why this is more ritual than movement.
Americans turned out for the anti-Trump No Kings rallies over the weekend in all 50 states and in big blue cities like New York, Chicago, LA, and Philly. Gen Z, though, must have been at brunch. Many observers noting that older demonstrators were out in large numbers, among other colorful characters.
Well, we're here to represent the loving, hardworking community of Los Angeles.
Donald Trump, stay the hell out of Chicago!
I feel like you were wearing a T-shirt that was designed to troll Donald Trump.
Yeah, it said, I am Antifa. I was there with my corgi, Clyde, and he
Clyde
wore
might
this.
be Antifa. Clyde might really be Antifa.
Tear up the crown.
This is what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
In Boston, every day is No King's Day. Donald Trump is not a king. Donald Trump is a bully.
President Trump not mincing words on how he felt about it.
I think it's a joke. I looked at the people. They're not representative of this country. And I looked at all the brand new signs paid for, I guess it was paid for by Soros and other radical left lunatics. It looks like it was. We're checking it out. The demonstrations were very small, very ineffective, and the people were whacked out. By the way, I'm not a king. I'm not a king. I work my ass off to make our country great. That's all it is. I'm not a king at all.
Jesse Waters, do you think Democrats were just getting together, blow off some steam, or will they be able to turn this into some sort of mobilization, registration of voters, something with longer-term impact?
We'll see. I know my mom was there.
Really?
Can you believe my mom was there?
Which one? New York? Boston?
In
Which
Long
mom?
Island.
Long Island.
It's like sometimes I think I was adopted. It's like they do these things. The Women's March, BLM, the Musk stuff. The issues change, but the one thing that stays the same is Trump. They think this guy's like crack cocaine. They get these big bursts of energy every once in a while, but long term, this has been bad for their health. They've lost the culture, they've lost the media, they've lost 2 of the last 3 elections, they've lost all power in Washington, and they've lost their minds.
Yep.
He looks powerful because Biden was weak. Biden, they raided the Treasury, they invaded the country, they let the foreigners steal all the supply chains, they let the criminals run wild. Biden just sat there. So Trump is doing a lot because he's cleaning up a lot. And the Democrats love kings. They love the government telling them what to do.
Yep.
Give me a shot. Take over my health care. Tell me what not to say. Remember when he was taking away everyone's First Amendment during the pandemic? Freedom of assembly. They were throwing people in jail for opening a gym. Remember the woman who tried to give someone a haircut? They threw her in jail. They're trying to take your Second Amendment. They're taking your First Amendment. Democrats love it. They love to submit. They love to conform. It's what they do. And you go into these rallies and you interview these people, they have no idea where they're there. I mean, some of them do, like my mom knew. But if you stick a mic in front of their face, they have no clue. They're just kind of walking around. And then sometimes you talk to one of them and they're like, yeah, I hope Trump dies. It's like, oh, my God, these people are nuts. Yeah. And Trump's no king. If Trump was a king, you wouldn't have had a rally like this. You wouldn't have people going on TV calling him Nazi, and you wouldn't have the government shut down. And all these people on the left saying, oh, the Constitution, I love the Constitution. You called the guys who wrote it racist, old white men, and then you tore down their statues. So don't tell me you love the Constitution. You don't.
Like they're walking around with the 1619 Project in their pocket.
Right.
In the Constitution. Jessica, what did you make of it, though?
So I went to check it out, the Times Square one. I ran into Paul Morrow there as he was doing some surveillance work, taking some pics, which managed to go viral. I, wasn't there that long. It was very peaceful. As reported, the police officers were having a good time hanging out with the folks streaming down 7th Avenue. There were some offensive signs, mostly unoffensive ones that were homemade and didn't come from George Soros's creative play for kids studio, a lot about the importance of human rights and civil rights, some 1776 shout outs, of course, a lot of anti-ICE posters. I've heard the complaints that it was too old and too white. I definitely saw young people there, but there were a good amount of folks who were in their later years, which I think actually means good news for the midterms, because guess who turns out at midterms? Women who do Zumba on the side of a protest. I saw this as a temperature check on what's going on in the second Trump administration. So 2 million more people showed up than they did just in June. As of the count right now, it was 5 in June, now 7 million this time. This is also a bit.
I'm curious where that count comes from. I can't find an official number.
Okay, well,
they do
really hard.
Right.
Like the
I
police
can't
officers, like the NYPD, did their count of who was there. They estimated it at 100,000, so you get it that way. You also have people who signed up and registered to make sure that they made it known that they were going to go.
It's not an official
also
number,
thought of
it's
it,
from the
fine,
actual.
You know what? Only 5 people were there. It was me and 4 of my family
I didn't say
members.
that. I just want you to be.
It is.
You're not taking it.
I
at
said
face
it was
value.
estimated. You don't take anything at face value. I get that
right.
now. So I'm just going to use my 90 seconds and then get out of here. I also think it was a bit of a turnout rally for Virginia and New Jersey to get people amped up for the fact that we have these big elections coming up that mean a lot about the future of the party. I wanted to add as well that Gallup's numbers for Americans' Party ID came out. Shifted in 2025, D +7. It was, we were down -4 at the end of 2024. So it has been a good year in terms of Democratic morale that way.
One thing is strange, Katie, and I'm not saying it wasn't anything. I mean, they had a little signs of life, but they were able to do this immediately after the first term, like on the second day, right? That's when that happened. This is 9 months later. So it's taking them a little bit of time. But I think that's partly because their leadership is so fractured.
Yeah.
And you have Kamala Harris, she's out there. Now Karine Jean-Pierre is going to be out there. Zohar Mamdani is taking over the attention meter. So you have a lot of people out there saying Trump is a king, but they're out there protesting him freely in the streets.
Yeah, they were pretty stunned after Trump beat them again, after they threw everything they possibly could at him, and he still won a second term. So it took them some time to find their sea legs, and they still really haven't, and they are fractured with how they want to go and what direction they're trying to go. And I think the elections that we're going to see in New Jersey and Virginia will be helpful to them to try and find their footing. But when I was at the BLM Plaza in March, when they were ripping it up in Washington, D.C., there was a lone white woman there protesting by herself. And I'm glad that she found some friends this weekend, because I felt very sorry for her. But this is the parade of the woke white liberals. It's the same people you've seen cause shopping for years and years and years. Jesse mentioned the Women's March, BLM. You saw them singing outside of federal government agencies during the Doge cuts. They just show up when they feel like they have something to say, even if it's counterintuitive to what they've been saying or believed in before.
Right.
I mean, you see American flags now. How many years has it been since they've really embraced the American flag? It used to be racist. They wanted to get rid of it. They were fine with people burning it at their riots in the 2020, summer of 2020. But the bigger picture here is this was mostly peaceful, but there are people in these rallies who, when they were asked about whether President Trump, if he were killed, if it would be worth it, if it would be something they were okay with, half of them said it would be fine. You had a staffer from a college in, I believe it was Denver, calling for ICE agents to be shot. So there is this underlying violence problem that the left has. Maybe it's not the woke white liberals who are showing up to different causes with these protests, but they do have this problem on their hands of people who think violence is the option for getting what they want.
So where do we go from here?
Well, the reason why I interrupted Jessica, because I keep hearing the number 7 million, and nobody ever supplies the backup sentence that says from X, because there is no X. There is no official accounting. When you go and you look for it, they say they get these numbers and they estimate it from the organizers. Imagine, this is like believing Jesse when you ask him how many girlfriends he had in college. Divide by 4. Okay, so maybe
7 million.
Yes. I will give credit where credit's due. It was largely nonviolent and non-confrontational. There were idiots that said terrible things. If you went and you asked them, they would say, "I hope Charlie Kirk dies." That was happening a lot, and you can call them old. They called Trump rallies old. Speaking of Charlie Kirk, he was the one who single-handedly destroyed that narrative with Turning Point. But again, I've said this before. This is an imaginary solution to an imaginary problem. If you look at their list of grievances, they're concepts. They cannot be measured. And this is why Republicans are so popular now. Crime, drugs, immigration are real things that generate statistics. You can measure it. I don't think you can measure, I know CNN will come up with it, measure a stat for authoritarianism. You know, it's gone up 137% since 2023. But right now, you can't. If you could measure authoritarianism, as Jesse points out, shutting down schools, parks, and speech would make Joe Biden the king of kings. But you're not going to measure that. So why do they believe in it? And you hit on this. Democrats are not used to seeing action. When Trump would say it doesn't always have to be this way, they didn't know what that meant. It's like, wait a second, you mean you can deport illegals? You can lock up recidivist criminals? Why didn't we think of that? Action. What is action? See, we have a conversation. That's our action. Let's have a conversation. Let's figure out a committee. But they never did a damn thing. And now you're seeing Democrats going, especially like in San Francisco. That city's on the mend. It's because they're actually doing stuff. They're arresting recidivists. They're hiring more cops. So I think it's like when Trump said, I work my ass off, that's exactly what it is. And they are not used to seeing it. They're in a shock. I think about the interviews that we were seeing of black people in D.C. and Memphis and Chicago talking about the crime crackdown. They weren't talking about monarchy. They were talking about safety in their streets. That was important to them. You compare that to the interviews of the people on Saturday. Largely white, older, soft academic bodies who can afford to march for conceptual fears that don't exist. Not real fears like mugging or carjacking or looting of their small businesses. They, however, God, they're so lucky. Imagine how lucky you are on a Saturday that this is your problem. I bet if you walked out there to that group and you said, have any of you ever been mugged? Has any of your businesses been looted? Have you ever been carjacked? Or do you know somebody that has been a victim of that? They wouldn't raise their hand. How lucky are they that they get to spend their afternoon not worrying about the things that everybody who lives in a city does? I think that's the story. Generally, imaginary concerns are harmless until they become harmful. When they become the narrative, suddenly you will see Charlie Kirk. Again, he gets shot and killed. Why? Because an amplified, phony narrative made him Hitler. Why was Trump shot at? Same reason. So this is harmless for now.
Even the pundits who sympathized called it peaceful and non-confrontational. Translation, cathartic but low energy. A protest that functions as an emotional release is not the same as a protest that produces outcomes. If your big takeaway is that the police had a good time hanging out, you just described a street fair with placards. If your protest doubles as a Saturday stroll, it's not a movement, it's mood management. Multiple observers noted the heavy tilt toward older attendees. Nothing wrong with older voters, they show up. But a movement that claims to be saving democracy has to show generational depth. If Gen Z must have been at brunch, you don't have cultural momentum, you have a reunion. The point is, a base without youth is a movement without tomorrow. You can't inflate your way to legitimacy. Even sympathetic voices question the count and admit there is no official accounting. Estimates stitched from registrations, organizers' claims, and a few municipal headcounts and proof of scale. They are a vibe report. Movements that lead the march should bring receipts. If 7 million is real, show the methodology. Otherwise, it's marketing. A core critique from the panel lands. The rally ran on abstractions such as authoritarianism, no kings, while voters are stuck with concrete problems. Crime, drugs, immigration. You can't beat kitchen table issues with poetry. If your platform can't be measured, it can't be managed, and voters know it. If your agenda fits on a grad seminar whiteboard, but not in a city budget, you're not ready to govern. The rally says no kings, but the policy appetite says more mandates. The panel lists speech controls, pandemic-era closures, and compliance culture. You can't condemn monarchy with one hand and applaud top-down rule with the other. That's not anti-authoritarian, that's brand management. You want no kings, then stop asking for more crowns. Trump is no king. If you were, you couldn't have held this rally. That's the irony. The rally's very existence disproves his thesis. Free speech, often defended by the very people they call authoritarian, is the oxygen for the march they just held. If your protest can happen safely, your fascism branding just failed its own experiment. Several participants reportedly said it would be fine if Trump were killed. That crosses from protest into permission setting. When a movement normalizes elimination talk, it doesn't protect democracy, it corrodes it. You can't preach no kings while flirting with political violence against your opponent. If your chant ends where violence begins, you're not saving norms, you're shredding them. We're suddenly waving American flags again. Great, welcome back. But you don't get instant credibility by rediscovering symbols you spent years calling problematic. Authenticity isn't a costume change. If the flag only appears when posters tell you suburban voters like it, that's not principle. That's optics triage. One panelist nails it. The crowd looked like soft academic bodies with the luxury to march against concepts. Meanwhile, many urban residents worry about muggings, carjackings, shoplifting. If your fear is a theory and theirs is a police report, your coalition will shrink. If the threat you fear is abstract and the threat they face is a knife, they won't vote with you. The left used to demonstrate within 48 hours of an election. This took 9 months. Slow cadence, fractured leadership, and slogan-heavy messaging equals ritualized outrage. Periodic highs, no policy wins. Voters eventually ask, what did this do? If the only thing that changes after your rally is the hashtag, it wasn't strategy, it was cardio. Trump said it himself, I'm not a king. I walk my tail off. Whether you like him or not, the king frame collapses under the facts. His critics hold massive media platforms. Protesters march freely. Institutions that oppose him still operate. That's not monarchy. That's politics you're losing lately. What would a serious rally have done? Bring auditors, not hype men. Publish a transparent headcount methodology. Lead with measurable planks. Crime policy, border fixes, energy costs. Put numbers and deadlines on paper. Show the coalition of the future. Youth working class, minority entrepreneurs, on stage and in the march. Police your rhetoric. Zero tolerance for slogans like I hope he dies. Disqualify nihilism loudly and publicly. Demonstrate costs. Identify one city policy you changed by Monday morning or don't march. The No Kings rallies were marketed as a stand for democracy. What we saw looked more like projection. Accuse your opponent of monarchy while begging for technocracy. Chant against authority while cheering its mandates. Claim 7 million without receipts. Call it a movement when it's therapy. Trump isn't a king. Far from it. But if your plan to stop a king is to cosplay resistance and outsource the hard work to slogans, don't be surprised when voters choose action over abstraction again. If you want results, trade symbolism for substance. If you want another Saturday selfie, there is always next weekend.